The man never imagined that he would one day face a life or death crisis just because he became handsomer. You see, the reason he could remain unstoppable in this other world was the god-tier combat power he gained by sacrificing his looks. Being peak-level ugly is the requirement for him to activate his cheats. But after being affected by the woman's special ability, he transformed from a fat otaku directly into Prince Charming. Not only was his power nerfed, but he was also humiliated and trampled by the villain. Once the casino incident settled down, the protagonist's team walked away with a massive 2.4 million gold. But the real trouble was only just beginning. He couldn't fathom the motives of the other absolute god and order spear. That organization is dangerous if they don't investigate. Disaster is inevitable. While the protagonist and Cheng Sai were discussing their next move, new intel practically landed in their laps. Turns out the tycoon the protagonist previously saved was looking to hire bodyguards. Given that he's the owner of a weapons manufacturing company, he likely knows a thing or two about the organization. Cheng Sai accepted the commission without hesitation. However, when he heard the client's name, the protagonist lost his cool. He never expected his perverted boss from the original world would also be an isekai traveler. Fortunately, he had altered his appearance and went unrecognized, avoiding an awkward encounter. Meanwhile, another absolute god was watching everything from the sky. In her eyes, the protagonist's team were nothing but hypocrites. By evening, they safely escorted the client home to show his gratitude. The boss prepared a lavish feast despite his gluttonous binge, and acting like a winner in life. Actually, he relies entirely on the healing magic of the assistant behind him to offset the physical strain. As for the matter regarding the black flag, he pondered over it for a long time, but had no recollection of it. However, some employees at the company might know something, so he invited Cheng Sai and the others to visit the factory the next day. Before bed, the boss specially prepared pajamas for the girl. What followed was an incredibly awkward scene. The next day, the group headed to the weapons factory to continue their investigation. Sure enough, an employee claimed to have seen something similar before. A customer had previously ordered 10 custom spears, and the cloaks worn by the two buyers closely resembled this fabric. However, after delivery, the customers mysteriously vanished. Upon visiting their place, no signs of anyone ever living there were found. With the trail gone cold once more, Cheng Sai suggested starting a company to counter them, recruiting those with problematic remarks by offering them employment, and helping them find ways to effectively use their special abilities. However, the MC felt the risk was too high. After all, the content of the remarks cannot be rewritten. Leah was a living example of that. Furthermore, Cheng Sai's remarks even state that he will never betray a comrade. If an employee were to rebel, he wouldn't be able to easily cast them aside. In the MC's view, Cheng Sai is best suited to be a king, entrusting governance to absolutely loyal confidants while he oversees the big picture without getting involved in day-to-day affairs. In this way, one wouldn't be bound by the system. To the MC's surprise, Cheng Sai completely misunderstood his point, thinking that they just needed to hire someone to be the boss and have them strictly vet the employees. With that, he invited the MC to be the CEO founder of the company. Initially, the MC refused because his gold acquisition rate is a measly 1-10-0. The moment he touches money, the company will go bankrupt. However, Cheng Sai sees things differently. The MC could have easily wiped out the team's funds, but he didn't. It proves that a negative debuff doesn't necessarily rob a person of their dignity. That's why he trusts the MC unconditionally. Unable to argue his way out, the MC had no choice but to join. The next day, Shen Hua and Li Zi also gave their approval, but they were curious. What would the company be called?
Oh, no. The kids can't get out. It's burning. Look at those question marks. Haha.
It's possible.
A month later, the new company was officially established. The man beside him is the boss Cheng Sai recruited. An ex-undercover casino worker is a low-key, composed and formidable figure. On top of that, Blondie joined the ranks as well. The company has two core missions. First, to help those suffering because of their remarks, to guide them forward, and second, to covertly gather intel on the gun of order. However, just as everything was getting on track, a mysterious applicant walked into the office. The mech broke into a cold sweat instantly. His intuition told him this woman was no ordinary person. Luckily, with Shen Hua's help, the interview was able to proceed. It turns out that before being summoned, Leah was a hostess. That was until she met a salesman known as Mr. Yu, who taught her various psychological tests and conversation techniques. She studied diligently after that, and became known as the goddess of divination. Little did she know that salesman was actually Amikwa. After the interview, Shen Hua was very impressed. Leah also felt that they could become friends, but they still needed to discreetly check her character soon. How our protagonist noticed something was off. He didn't expect the person meeting with Leah at this moment to be a member of the organization they had been searching for. As for the little girl, she had taken a high-interest loan from the scarred man and couldn't pay it back.
I don't know what to do. You might be able to use her like a piece of the puzzle. While our protagonist was wondering if this would affect him as well, Leah suddenly produced a large sum of money to buy the girl's freedom and cast a spell on her to prevent her from taking her own life.
After telling her to hurry home, she asked about another child's whereabouts, hoping to redeem them both, but the scarred man said the kid was already dead. Apparently he had taken on a dangerous task to pay off his debt. Back at the base, Leah was overcome with guilt, hating herself for failing to save the child in time. This scene made our protagonist and the others realize that Leah wasn't a villain, but just as the two were leaving, next day was a holiday. And our protagonist went shopping with Shenhua. Unexpectedly, the absolute god Karina suddenly appeared. She didn't just want to befriend Shenhua. She also revealed that gods exist in this world, such as a male god, who only seals his lust, or a goddess who seals both lust and sleep simultaneously. Hearing this, the protagonist broke into a cold sweat. But since they were in public, he didn't dare act rashly. It wasn't until Shenhua went to order food that he finally had the chance to ask about Karina's motives. However, she didn't hide a thing, bluntly stating that she intended to be his obstacle. She was even kind enough to reveal her own weaknesses just to give him a slight fighting chance. It states that once he kisses his beloved, he will melt away and disappear.
Adesini is still usable. Keep stuffing them in. Hello?
Karina suspects that it's all because of Shenhua, so she plans to kill her real-world connections such as a woman named Leah. That way Shenhua will completely fall into darkness, and the protagonist will no longer be able to guide her. These words instantly enraged the protagonist. Just as the tension peaked, Shenhua happened to return with the food, and Karina vanished in an instant. The next day, Leah approached Shenhua, stating she wanted to withdraw her application because she felt unworthy of the company. Turns out that Mr. Y, who taught her sales skills back then, was falsely accused. By the time she found out, the protagonist had suffered social death and vanished, leaving her unable to accept the outcomers. She tracked down the culprit through special means, and in a fit of rage, she committed an irreparable crime with a knife. Intending to end her life afterward, she wrote her last words on her phone. I'm a gorgeous villainess. I will punish these fools and live elegantly. If a god truly exists, please occasionally appear as a handsome Prince Charming and protect me in the shadows. This was the content of Leah's remarks column. After her accidental reincarnation, she hoped to atone for her sins in this world, only to realize she couldn't save everyone. Just as Leah was about to leave, Shenhua grabbed her hand. Whether the atonement was right or wrong, Shenhua wasn't sure, but he felt that Leah was a brave person, so he wanted to be friends with her. However, right then a little boy ran in crying, saying that his sister had been taken by a man with a scar on his face. Just as the protagonist was about to call the team for a rescue mission, unexpectedly he used an ability to turn into bubbles and vanished instantly. Chengxi and Liz soon arrived after hearing the news. MC and Liz planned to head out first, but they were pulled into a pocket dimension the moment they stepped out. The one behind this was Karina. She intended to fulfill her promise to take Shenhua's friends away as it happens. She also had some unfinished business with Leah. Once the two were teleported outside the city walls, the MC finally confessed the truth about the absolute god to Liz. However, Liz revealed that her real name isn't Karina, but Neko Shiratori. The one who falsely accused the MC in the past is her twin sister. Meanwhile, Leah arrived at the scarred man's hideout to demand why he had broken their agreement. Little did she know Karina had simply offered a higher price. She did this so she could kill him and make Shenhua hate her. But Leah was still worried about the little girl, and told her to hurry to the company to find her brother. Karina added that there was another reason she was targeting him, Kaneko Shiratori. Leah was shocked to hear that name, mistakenly thinking that Kaneko herself had come for revenge. Karina had no intention of explaining the misunderstanding, but just as she was about to strike, something unexpected happened.
Certainly.
It turns out the scarred man already suspected Karina was involved in the casino incident. Fearing he might end up like Oda, he decided to strike first. He planned to use his god-killing power to make a name for himself and strike it rich. However, their infighting gave Leah a perfect opportunity to escape. Looking at Karina, who was unable to get up, the scarred man didn't finish her off immediately. Instead, he decided to catch Leah first and deal with them both together. Luckily, Chengxi and Shenhua spotted him just as the MC was about to join them. The moment he appeared, he unexpectedly transformed into a handsome blonde guy, taking everyone by complete surprise. While the MC was still confused, the transformed Liz descended from the sky and held up a mirror to him. Standing nearby, Leah instantly lost her composure, as the wish in her remarks column had actually come true. The Prince Charming of her dreams was now standing right before her, but the MC didn't want his teammates to recognize him in this state, so he had to improvise a fake name on the spot.
Shake it, shake it, shake it.
Soon the scarred man and his goons caught up with them. Chengxi took the lead immediately. Even his most basic skills were incredibly powerful. On the other hand, the MC was struggling. Usually he would have one-shotted these enemies, but now his attacks were being easily parried. It was clear this handsome appearance had caused his combat power to tank. Just then, a pigeon flew over. Catching the scarred man off guard, it cast a sealing spell that stripped him of all 5 senses. The newcomer was none other than Karina. Since the scarred man's remarks column stated he didn't believe in God she changed her for, and discarded her divine title. Saying this, the other lackeys immediately begged for mercy, but Karina had no intention of sparing anyone, unleashing a wide range lightning spell because the MC's power had dropped in his handsome form. His shield could only hold for a moment before the lightning engulfed the entire ruins. The MC was pinned to the ground by a massive boulder. He originally thought Karina was doing this to avenge her sister, but the truth left him utterly shocked. It turned out Leah's strike didn't end it all. His sister was still alive, and her existence tormented him forever. Turns out that Jiangsu had been unstable since childhood, causing destruction everywhere. Not only that, she was also a compulsive liar. As she grew up, she became a repeat offender, making false accusations of sexual harassment. And because he simply looked like his sister, he became the target of everyone's baseless resentment. He finally met a god who was willing to guide him, but that god was cruelly taken away by Jiangsu in the end. The only friend he had left was a doll named Karina. After Jinsu's accident, he did feel the urge to kill her, but he stopped at the last second because he noticed the image on his phone. To find the god who once guided him, he sealed his desires for lust and sleep, becoming an absolute god in this other world. He thought the protagonist would surely understand his pain, but since the MC chose another girl instead, he is determined to destroy Shenhua, forcing him to watch his friend die before his very eyes. To protect Leah, Shenhua immediately transformed into his angel form. He didn't actually want to make an enemy of Karina. After all, Karina had once expressed a desire to be his friend. Thus, he hoped they could both calm down and talk. But little did he know, Karina loathed that very kindness that seemed to forgive everything. At the critical moment, Jiangsu and Lizzie finished their recovery and arrived as backup, but the gap in power was far too wide. Even working together, they remained completely outmatched. Cash duty, that's again, come on. Zia, can I meanwhile? The MC still cannot break free. Just then, the little angel Shenhua appeared and activated his skill. Her friend is wounded deep in their soul. He helps them reclaim what they have lost. This also allowed the protagonist to awaken his true self. Prince Charming isn't for him. The ugly true warrior is his real identity. Brimming with confidence after regaining his power, he declares, "Leave everything to me from here on out." He then opened a pocket dimension and sent Karina inside, following right behind her. The protagonist originally hoped to use Talk no Jutsu to make Karina see reason. After all, they are both escapists of the same kind, utterly unworthy of being called absolute gods. Therefore, in this precious second life, they should both reflect on themselves and start over. But at the thought of being Kaneko's sister and the agony that demon caused her, Karina's mind spiraled into an uncontrollable violent rage. The protagonist was also a victim of false accusations. So why is there such a vast difference between them? The protagonist didn't have an answer, but one thing was clear after being summoned. He found incredible comrades. And that made all the difference. Hearing this, Karina's composure shattered once more. If this reincarnation is still nothing but a trash game, I'd rather destroy everything with her own hands. She then unleashed a high-density barrage-style magic attack. Seeing this, the protagonist immediately summoned a stone barrier, but due to the power gap, he could only mitigate some of the damage. Seeing the protagonist struggling so pathetically, Karina thought the outcome was decided. Little did she know, he was merely testing the possibility of summoning celestial bodies. Once confirmed, he immediately activated the skill Meteor Impact. However, Karina didn't panic at all, as her staff's ultimate skill could erase all matter without a trace. But little did she know this was exactly the moment he had been waiting for. This move is so powerful that the system issues a warning pop-up every time it's used. While Karina was distracted by the system alert, he immediately dumped his 10 unused crystal skill points equivalent to 1 billion entirely into his speed stat, then launched an attack from her blind spot.
She kept on the cat-like girl. One of the staff so sexy. You they'll crush.
Farewell.
After the incident, the MC gave all the credit to his Prince Charming form, and the members of the organization were captured by the guards. Through everyone's collective efforts, the company's philosophy began to take root in this world. Those who once lived in constant despair might finally be striving to live their second lives to the fullest. However, Karina's ultimate goal remained unchanged. Months later, the owner of the weapon manufacturing company paid an unexpected visit. It turned out he had new intelligence regarding the order of the guns. Saying this, Jiangsu and Liz rushed to find the MC and Shenhua during their meal, summoning them back to the office for a strategy meeting. However, when Shenhua reflexively grabbed his hand, it accidentally triggered the MC's debuff, losing HP upon contact with wind. Fortunately, he gritted his teeth and endured the agonizing pain.
Another was that she was institutionally kissed. That concludes the recap for episodes 9 to 12. of the Fat Otaku hero.
Now let's supplement some additional settings and details. First, sacrificing desires doesn't mean the system removes them for you. Rather, it requires active self-restraint, or the user will die. The Mei's seal on lust is manageable as long as he maintains his will. But Karina is forced to stay awake despite her overwhelming exhaustion. Combined with the trauma involving her sister, the long-term toll was immense. It's only natural for her sanity to have unraveled. Secondly, even if Scarman had made his move earlier, it would have been futile. Though he can restrict the absolute god's movements, he still can't break through Karina's defense after all. A temporary loss of skills doesn't mean losing one's base stats. It's quite hard for a gimmick monster to beat a stat monster. It's a massive uphill battle. Overall, this anime is quite a breath of fresh air. It avoids cliché harems and brain-dead plotlines, and never leaves the audience feeling needlessly frustrated. It honestly features one of the most heartwarming protagonist parties in anime. Despite the massive controversy surrounding the protagonist's appearance, the show's core consistently promotes values of truth, kindness, and beauty, making the actual watching experience quite enjoyable.